Look over there at the rainbow. Right there around that shadow on the cloud. Do you see the shadow?
Yeah, they look neat, don't they?
And you know what that means, right?
Has something to do with moisture, doesn't it?
Yes. Definitely indicates there's liquid water in the clouds. And we're at -6 degrees. We're definitely going to get ice.
I'm sure we will.
Rona was able to gather icing information from the rainbow around her shadow on the cloud. A rainbow indicates the existence of liquid water in the cloud. If the temperature is in the freezing range, you'll probably get ice. However, this will not indicate the type or severity of ice. To get this information, you should query for PIREPs along your route.
Seneca 7 Mike Alpha, descend and maintain 3,500, fly heading 350.
7 Mike Alpha, leaving 4 for 3.5, right turn to 350.
You have the prop heat on?
I turned it on when I spotted the rainbow. But you know, 3,500 is going to put us right near the tops. Sometimes that's where the worst icing is. And it looks like we're picking up some moderate clear now.
Rona's just descended into the clouds, and she knows to expect ice. The question is how bad? Climbing is probably her best option since she knows it's clear above. Descending will only keep her in the icing environment since the temperature is -6°C and the ceiling is 500 feet. Continuing or diverting will unnecessarily prolong her exposure to ice.
Bob, this is crazy. We're getting moderate clear. I'm going to ask to go back on top.
What about going lower?
No, the ATIS reported 500 feet and -2 degrees. We could be in icing the whole way down. If it was my only option, I'd take it and probably get out of this moderate clear. Our best option is to climb back on top. Grand Rapids approach, this is 7 Mike Alpha. We're getting moderate clear ice. We'd like to go back to 4,000.
Seneca 7 Mike Alpha, roger, climb and maintain 4,000, the Grand Rapids altimeter 299.7.
Greg is on top at 6,000. He climbed from 4, his MEA, to escape an icing encounter. The OAT reads -5°C, and the tops are at 5,600. Greg now has to consider his next move. He is concerned that his destination airport is socked in.
Flight watch, this is Saratoga 295 Sierra Romeo, 20 miles northeast of Rosewood at 6,000.
Roger, November 295 Sierra Romeo. This is Indianapolis Flight Watch, voice for Dayton. Go ahead.
Flight watch, 5 Sierra Romeo is 20 miles northeast of Rosewood, en route to Indy at 19. Request an en route briefing.
Roger, sir. Greene County has no weather reporting. The closest airport is Wright-Patterson, and they're reporting 2,000 overcast. Temperature -3, dew point -8, altimeter 3015, visibility 15, wind 280 at 10. And there was a pilot report about an hour ago from a Baron that reported light to moderate clear icing on the climb with tops to 5,800. Over.
Flight watch, 5 Sierra Romeo. Are there any airports in the area with better conditions?
And November 5 Sierra Romeo, affirmative. It looks like Hook Field is your best bet. Their AWAS is reporting scattered layer at 2,000, temperature -2, dew point -9, altimeter 3011, wind 280 at 10, visibility 15, and negative icing reports for that area. Over.
Thanks for the report.
Greg's checked all his options. Diverting to the alternate airport, Hook Field, makes the most sense.
Dayton approach, Saratoga 295 Sierra Romeo. Like to do an approach to Mike Whiskey Oscar, Hook Field, and then request VFR flight following to Greene County, India 19.
November 5 Sierra Romeo, roger. You're now cleared to Hook Field via radar vectors. Fly present heading, descend and maintain 4,000.
Approach 5 Sierra Romeo. I'd like to stay at 6,000 on top as long as possible.
Saratoga 5 Sierra Romeo. If you'd like to stay at 6, I'll have to take you around the Dayton Class C.
Roger, 5 Sierra Romeo. We'd still prefer to stay at 6.
November 5 Sierra Romeo, roger. Turn left heading 140, maintain 6,000.
Greg was fortunate enough to be able to make an approach at a nearby airport that had good weather. He will continue on to his destination, VFR. Even though it's going to take more time to reach his destination airport, staying out of the icing condition is paramount. Notice Greg did not accept a clearance that would take him into potential icing conditions. Pilots in unprotected aircraft should not accept ATC direction into potentially hazardous icing conditions.
November 50 Romeo, you're 6 miles from Oneida. Maintain 3,000 until established on the localizer. Cleared for the localizer runway 23 approach at Hook Field. Change to advisory frequency is approved. Report back on this frequency upon completion of the approach for VFR advisories.
50 Romeo cleared localizer, maintain 3 till established, clear to switch to advisories, and we'll report back with you after the approach. 50 Romeo.
Greg's decisions allow him to make an ice-free approach. Remember, if you make an approach in icing conditions, you could accumulate enough ice to make a missed approach as well as a second attempt at landing impossible. If better weather conditions are not an option and you're forced to make an approach in icing conditions, consider a destination airport with an ILS. This will provide you with a more stabilized approach and increase the likelihood of a successful landing.
Now, the weather conditions are much worse, and the alternator in Greg's aircraft has just failed. He is forced to land. There are low ceilings in the area. The freezing level is at the surface, and a King Air just ahead reported light to moderate clear icing. His best choice is to find a nearby airport that allows him to make an ILS approach.
Do you think we'll be able to get into Greene County?
I'm not going to take that chance. Since we have to make an approach in icing, we'll go to Springfield and do the ILS.
We could always try the NDB to Greene County and go to Springfield if we don't get in.
No, we might get so iced up we can only make one approach. I want to do an ILS to make sure we get in. My plan is to stay on top as long as possible. I know we'll get ice on the approach. We'll add 10 knots or so and then do a no-flap landing.
Oh, I see what you're doing. And Springfield also has longer runways.
That's right. Dayton 50 Romeo, we'd like to change our destination to Springfield, and we'd also like to stay on top here at 5.
Saratoga 50 Romeo, fly present heading, maintain 5,000. Expect ILS runway 24 approach at Springfield.
50 Romeo, roger. Fly present heading and maintain 5,000. Expect the ILS 24 at Springfield.
Because there is a greater risk of pitch or roll upsets at slower speeds, most icing accidents occur during the approach and landing phase of the flight.
Seneca 7 Mike Alpha, descend and maintain 3,000. Fly heading 270, vector to the ILS, runway 35.
Left 270, ILS runway 35.
Why'd you turn the autopilot off? I thought it could fly the ILS.
Whenever you fly in ice, it's better to hand fly your airplane. That way you can feel the plane talk to you.
If you're in icing, especially during the approach, hand fly your aircraft. The autopilot is likely to mask the first indications of an upset. If you hand fly, you'll feel the impending handling anomaly and be able to recover before it's too late. Hey, even if your aircraft is protected, you're going to continually build ice. Hand fly the aircraft.
Ice that seems to have little effect during cruise can have significant effects when airspeed is reduced or the configuration has changed. Especially during approach and landing, your aircraft is pushed toward its performance limits. This puts it at some risk for ice-contaminated wing or tail stall. Ice-contaminated wing stall occurs when the wing angle of attack is too high. This corresponds to a slow airspeed. If the wing does stall, the aircraft will either roll or pitch nose down. Symptoms of an imminent wing stall include airframe buffet and sluggish or ineffective roll control. The recovery from an ice-contaminated wing stall is the same as a clean wing stall. Immediately reduce the angle of attack. Reducing the angle of attack reattaches airflow to the wing's upper surface. The wing angle of attack is reduced by pushing forward on the yoke and adding power. If the wing is iced, you cannot rely on your stall warning device because the iced wing is likely to stall at a lower angle of attack than a clean wing. Also, the stall warning system can freeze on an unprotected aircraft, rendering it absolutely useless. While a wing stall with ice is more common, an ice-contaminated horizontal stabilizer can also lead to loss of pitch control. In most aircraft designs, the horizontal stabilizer has a sharper leading edge than the wing. Therefore, it collects ice much more efficiently. If you notice any ice on the wing, it is likely that the ice has already been accreting on the horizontal stabilizer for quite some time. A tail stall or a pitch upset usually occurs during or after flap extension. Flap extension greatly increases the local angle of attack at the tail. Also, higher speeds or a high speed for flap extension further increases the tailplane angle of attack. Finally, if the thrust line on your aircraft is above the center of gravity, adding power will increase the nose-down pitch and aggravate a tail stall.
Prior to a tail stall, you're likely to experience some significant but subtle warning signs. At first, you may experience lightening of the yoke in the forward direction. Other signs include difficulty trimming the pitch and the onset of pitch excursion, similar to pilot-induced oscillations. If this situation progresses, you may also experience buffeting in the yoke, but not the airframe. In extreme cases, the yoke might want to snatch forward. If this happens, the nose will suddenly pitch down. To recover from a tail stall, pull back on the yoke to resist the nose-down pitch. Raise the flaps and consider reducing power.
The differences in tactile cues between a wing and a tail stall are subtle. The recovery procedures are opposite. You must be able to quickly and correctly distinguish between the two. The key factors are airspeed and flap deflection. A wing will stall when the critical angle of attack is exceeded. This typically corresponds to a slow airspeed. A tail stall occurs at a high enough tailplane angle of attack. This almost always corresponds to lowering the flaps. To recover from a wing stall, push forward on the yoke and add power. On the other hand, to recover from a tail stall, pull the yoke back, raise the flaps, and consider reducing power. When it comes to handling events, remember one thing: undo what you just did. This might be all you need to recover. Whether you're piloting a protected or unprotected aircraft, here are some strategies to minimize your exposure to ice on approach. While being vectored for final approach or flying a full non-precision approach, stay on top as long as possible and practical. In fact, if conditions and your comfort level allow, stay on top until intercepting the final approach course and glide slope inbound. Don't accept intermediate altitude assignments in icing conditions. Be aware that this could result in a higher than normal descent rate on a non-precision approach. Keep your speed up. This will increase the stall margin. If it's snowing at your destination, chances are you won't pick up ice. If the cloud is glaciated, the water is already frozen. Ice crystals will harmlessly bounce off your aircraft.
Rona is on ILS approach into her final destination. The ceilings are at 500 feet and the freezing level is at the surface.
Seneca 7 Mike Alpha, turn right heading 330, 5 miles from Caldo, maintain 3000 until established on the localizer, cleared ILS, runway 35, over Caldo, contact Grand Rapids Tower. Good day.
Roger, 7 Mike Alpha. Right turn to 330, cleared ILS 35, maintain 3000 until established, call the tower at Caldo. Okay, Bob, we'll cycle the boots at the final approach fix and then one last time when we break out of the clouds. We'll also keep the speed up about 10 knots on final.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
As busy as you are, remember to cycle your boots at the final fix. This will keep your wings clean during this crucial phase of flight. To increase the stall margin, keep your speed up.
Greg is able to make a VFR approach and landing, and did not accept a clearance that would take him into potential icing conditions.
Dayton approach 50 Romeo. We have Greene County in sight. Like to cancel flight following.
November 50 Romeo, roger. Squawk 1200. Frequency change approved.
Okay, squawk at 1200. Frequency change approved. Good day, 50 Romeo. Greene County Unicom, Saratoga 2950 Romeo, request airport advisory.
November 5 Sierra Romeo, Greene County is using runway 25. Winds are 280 at Niner. No other traffic reported.
Greg is able to make a VFR approach and landing, but he still has some residual ice on his airplane from the earlier inadvertent ice encounter. Remember, ice, which has little effect during cruise, can have significant effects when airspeed is reduced or the configuration is changed. If your aircraft is, or you suspect it is, carrying ice, remember the following. Increase your approach speed. This allows you to increase your stall margin and make a safer approach and landing. Consider landing with no flaps or reduced flaps if you're worried about a tail stall. This will increase your margin. Minimize your bank angle. For example, if the aircraft is not aligned with the runway, don't make any high bank turns. Instead, use shallow maneuvers. Turns will decrease the stall margin, bringing you closer to a stall. And if you're worried about maintaining altitude due to the drag penalty, consider delaying gear extension until the runway is assured.
This Bonanza 70 kilo, he's picking up ice. I've taken him out for the ILS runway 9 approach at Pontiac. It's probably severe because he can't hold his altitude. Call Pontiac Tower and tell him he's inbound. They might want to have the truck standing by. I'm going to declare an emergency on this guy. Okay?
Will do.
Thanks, Bill.
John, I don't think we're going to make it to the other side of the airport to do this approach. Ask for a closer approach.
Detroit approach 70 kilo. We can't make the ILS. We need another approach to Pontiac. Another approach.
After asking us how many souls were on board, air traffic control vectored us towards Pontiac Airport. By the time we intercepted the localizer, we were clearly well below the minimum descent altitude. We had difficulty maintaining altitude and were losing altitude at 100 to 200 feet a minute, despite being under full power. Our major concern at this time was maintaining control of the aircraft. Fortunately, by this time, as we were 3 miles from the airport, we stopped accumulating ice, and our defroster was working well enough that we had good visibility forward out of the windscreen. We still had no sight of the ground, and only as we came over the runway could we see downward and see the concrete, at which point we then put the landing gear down and made a very hard full stall landing. It was quite evident that we could not have gone another quarter mile. We did taxi out down to the ramp, and when I got out of the aircraft, the amount of ice is truly indescribable. There was ice covering the entire aircraft, including the antenna. The propeller spinner had ice about 1 foot long, and the wings had 6 inches of ice in the shape of a horn coming off the front leading edges. Having been through this experience and survived to both tell you about it and hopefully teach you about it, I would ask that you keep one thing in mind always, and that is to respect the power of ice on an aircraft.
With the weather changes, I'm glad we made it.
Even with all the route changes, we're only 20 minutes late. It's good to have outs.
Grand Rapids Tower, 7 Mike Alpha with you on ILS 35.
7 Mike Alpha, clear to land, runway 35.
Roger, 7 Mike Alpha, clear to land 35.
Rona, I have the runway.
Okay, Bob, I'll take over visually.
Rona, that was a great flight. Thanks a lot.
The best insurance against an icing encounter is avoidance. Develop a pre-flight plan. Know where the ice is and where it is safe. Remember, ice can only exist when there is visible moisture and temperatures are in the freezing range. Be sure you know the freezing levels, cloud tops, ceilings, and any relevant PIREPs. Also, be aware of any frontal activity along your route and upweather. Always build reliable outs into your flight plan. You may have to reroute to ensure this. If reliable outs are not possible, consider delaying or not going. Report and request PIREPs. They are the most accurate way of determining current icing conditions. They are especially helpful when conditions are better or worse than expected. Be assertive with ATC. If you're piloting an unprotected aircraft, do not accept ATC clearances in a hold climb, or descent that would put you in a potentially hazardous icing condition. If icing conditions do exist, be vigilant to the cues of ice accretion. Pay attention to the areas of the aircraft with a small radius or thin leading edge. They will accrete ice first. Hand fly your aircraft in possible icing conditions. This will provide tactile cues to early signs of potential roll or pitch upset. Monitor your airspeed and/or power settings. If you notice significant performance degradation, exit the condition immediately. It is always a good idea to work to exit icing conditions, whether the aircraft is protected or not. Never use the ice protection system as a tool of complacency. Typically, you can climb, descend, continue, divert, or return to exit icing conditions. Once you determine you need to exit, clearly communicate to ATC the urgency of the situation. If you do not get the clearance to make the required change and feel the safety of the flight is in jeopardy, declare an emergency. If iced, be careful of configuration or flight condition changes. On approach, keep your speed up. This will increase your wing stall margin. Also, consider a no-flap or reduced flap landing to increase your tail stall margin. Finally, if you're unable to maintain altitude, consider delaying gear extension until the runway is assured. Remember, these tools are the keys to help you open the door to more safety options and successfully avoid ice and exit an inadvertent ice encounter.